I have the great pleasure to introduce our next speaker. We are not finished with the topic of security. We have with us the Monica Verma, who is CISO in Orange Systems and also the founder of Monica Talks Cyber. So with that, take it away, Monica.
Thank you. The year is 1937. A trucker by the name Malcolm McLean wants to make it home in time for Thanksgiving, but he's stuck. He's stuck for hours waiting in queue for his truck to be unloaded at a pier in New Jersey. You see, back in 1900s and well into the 1960s, transportation through shipping was still very cumbersome, costly, and took extremely long time. It was there and then, in 1937, that Malcolm McLean came with this fantastic idea of using containers for shipping. And although it took him almost 20 years to realize his idea, he invented and patented containerized shipping in 1956, as we know it today, that has changed the world economy and the world trade forever. Why are we talking about it? I'll share it with you in a minute. His idea was so revolutionary that the period from 1967 to 1981 saw more than 80% of world's maritime countries adopt at least one containerized post, despite opposition from politicians and resistance from organized labor. His idea was so revolutionary that it led to a rapid and profound reorganization of the entire shipping industry as we know it today, that changed not only shipping industry, but also world trade and global economy forever. Shipping industry today is a critical infrastructure for nation economy, but also for world economy. Around 90% of world trade is seaborne. Shipping industry is a critical infrastructure for world economy. Yet another example is of this marvelous man. Does anybody know who he is? This guy, this is the man behind nuclear energy. His name is Enrico Fermi. He's an Italian-American physicist, the man who played a vital role in developing nuclear energy. Enrico and his team at the University of Chicago were the ones that created the world's first controlled nuclear chain reaction in 1942. And even though nuclear energy is a controversial topic, it accounts for a significant 10% of global electricity, which is not tiny, 10% compared to how much we use fossil fuels still. In fact, we saw a sharp dip in the use of nuclear energy as many countries basically took their nuclear plants offline after the Fukushima tsunami in Japan in 2011. But shortly after that, that increased back again. And even though in the world sense, it's only 10% of global electricity, some countries are dependent on nuclear energy more than others, providing 70% of electricity in France, which is through nuclear energy, and about 40% in Sweden. It's zero in Norway. That's a different story. But why am I talking about these two examples? Just like the shipping industry, the energy sector has revolutionized over the last many years. It has undergone a massive revolution that we have seen in the last decade. And they both are critical infrastructure to both national economy, but also world and global economy, especially when it comes to both shipping and energy. But not every innovation is revolutionary. Some evolutionary, but some maybe even disruptive. And now we get to the interesting part. In 2010, we officially went from code to cyber war, with Stuxnet, the malware that targeted Iran's nuclear program, officially becoming world's first publicly known cyber weapon. In 2017, Meshk was ransomware. Meshk is one of the biggest maritime giants, representing the fifth of world's shipping capacity, with around 800 vessels, came to a standstill, dead in water, because of the ransomware attack. In 2019, as you all know, Norsk Hydro was ransomware as well, through an email attachment that impacted all 35,000 employees across 40 countries, with up to 350 million Norwegian kroners of losses in just 1 week after the cyber attack. Doesn't stop there. In 2021, Colonial pipeline across the entire East Coast, the entire East Coast, was basically also ransomware. Their IT operations were ransomware by a cybercriminal gang known as DarkSide. They stole 100 gigabytes of data within a 2-hour window. 100 gigabytes of data. And then infecting the IT systems with ransomware. Just like Norsk Hydro, Colonial Pipeline had to take their pipeline offline, separate it, stop it, causing disruptions themselves because they wanted to prevent the malware from spreading from the IT to the OT. They were not confident of the segregation that was in there, which led to millions of dollars of losses and oil prices surging just in the few days or weeks that followed. The OT was not even attacked. Why am I taking these 4 examples? What is common between these 4 examples? All of them represent some sort of an act of cyber war that used some form of advanced malware by threat actors that were either state-sponsored or at least state-linked in each of these 4 cases, targeting critical infrastructure in all these 4 cases, leading to significant economic or political impact. Today, we live in this era of cyber warfare. We've already moved from code to cyber war, where code can be cyber weaponized or weaponized at any point of time to be used against nations, causing political disruptions or loss to national security and world economy. So how do we lead in this era of cyber warfare? How do we build a stronger, sustainable ecosystem, both for our businesses and our society at large? After I scared you enough, I need to tell you, what can we do? Because there is something we can do 100%. In the last years, we have seen a lot of convergence between the digital, the physical, and the biological worlds, especially the convergence between the IT and OT, which I've heard the whole day today. We are talking about energy sector, right? Especially kickstarted by the Industry Revolution 4.0 in 2011. Since then, we've also seen a lot of uncertainties because of pandemic, geopolitical warfare that's ongoing. But we're also seeing innovation like we have never seen before. In fact, we're using even more IoT in the critical infrastructure than we're using in just IT or regular businesses. 2020, the IoT market size already reached around $12 billion globally. And in 2028, it's estimated to already reach $35 billion, the IoT market, just the IoT market. By 2025, Internet of Everything not just Internet of Things, but Internet of everything, because there's a convergence between digital, physical, biological. It's Internet of everything. It will exceed more than 100 billion connected devices, with each of the devices having dozens or more of sensors, leading to a trillion sensor economy, where we will see a revolution of data beyond our imagination. And where there is data, there is money. Where there is money, there is cybercrime. And where there is cybercrime, there's a high and significant chance of cyber warfare and political disruptions to both national security and world economy. Next 10 years, we will reinvent every industry on this planet Earth, including the cybercrime industry. It will get worse before it gets better. And we need to understand what can we do to help it get better, to get there faster. And I'll come to that. Today, cybercriminals have evolved massively over the last 100 years. Today, cybercriminals are entrepreneurs that have gone to the dark side. They're innovative and business savvy. They're running organized cybercrime both as startups but also as big corporations with our HR departments, hiring people in the darknet, selling services, creating ransomware affiliate programs, are sponsored by nation states. Somebody talked today about Russia creating all these weapons. They are not creating directly the weapons, but they're hiring and backing all these organized cyber criminal gangs. DarkSide is a very important example. And all the ones that I told you, they were all backed or sponsored by nation states. Why create when you can buy? That's what's happening. And they're building a disruptive underworld ecosystem. So we need to build a stronger, sustainable ecosystem for ourselves. Otherwise, we will be always behind. So how can we do that? Number one, know thy enemy. Unless you don't know what you're up against, there is so much you can do. Your defenses need to be in alignment with what you're up against. Understanding the motivations behind the threat actors is key. And there's a difference. When you look at cyber criminals, the number one motivation still is financial gain. But when you look at threat actors like nation states, they're looking more for political gains or political disruptions. And even there, the motivations or their strategies are different. Rob Joyce from the NSA said this: Russia is like a hurricane, while China is like climate change. What does it mean? Russia can be sporadic, unpredictable, but China is a long-term strategic threat that doesn't show off, but can do quite a lot. Understanding the differences and the nuances is key to building a stronger, sustainable ecosystem. Number two, no matter how much convergence we do, how much technology we get, how much OT, IT, IoT, IOE, whatever, you name it, and all the new acronyms that will come later, every single day almost, ultimately, it's run by people, for people, used by people. People will always be a part of it. In just the last 3 years, we have seen a massive rise in deep fakes and use of deep fakes to hurt, manipulate, and scam both individuals, businesses, and society at large. A very recent example, and a very real example of this one, is where a group of scammers created deep fake audio of the CEO of a bank and sent it to a bank manager, told the bank manager, you need to wire $35 million right away. This is a very important acquisition that we are doing. Not everybody can know about it. Shh. But you are in it. You need to transfer $35 million right away. That's it. they made off with $35 million. A bank heist that used only forged email addresses and deepfake audio. So people, people, people. Number 3, focusing on the attack surface. Your attack surface today is not within the 4 walls of your organization. It's across your entire supply chain. It's across your entire IT and OT convergence. It's across the IoTs that you're using and everything in between. And you cannot have 100% security. It doesn't exist, which means you need to understand what 20% investment will give you that 80% outcome that you need for your risk management. Ultimately, it's about managing your risks, understanding your risks, and managing them well. And you cannot do that without the visibility across your entire attack surface. That is key. Fail first and fail fast. What does it mean? If you fail first and fast at your own terms and conditions by doing testing, by doing exercises, by doing crisis management, if you do all these things with the time and the money that you invest, it's known. But if you fail at the hands of cybercriminals, what it can cost you, only sky is the limit to that. With all the disruptions that happened in the examples I showed you, where lots of millions of dollars were lost, in addition to that, Colonial Pipeline ended up paying $4.4 million just in ransom. So what it can cost you, unless you fail first and fail fast at your own terms and conditions, only sky is the limit. I usually use this argument when I'm not able to get my budget, and then I get it right away. Number 5, no matter what you do, you can do 1, 2, 3, 4, you can have visibility, you can do everything, there is still a chance a crisis will happen. You can still get cyber attacked. If any security expert is ever telling you that that will not happen, they can guarantee you, run away from them right away. Run fast. That's the biggest lie ever. You can always, always, nonetheless, get cyber attacked and end up in a crisis situation. And how you adapt in that situation is critical. Instead of having to separate the IT and OT, where it can cost operational failure, can you actually put in policies where segregation happens while the cyber attack is happening and your critical infrastructure continues to function? That is the key to survival in mode of crisis, which is adaptability. How do you adapt in a crisis situation so your critical infrastructure is still functioning? That is key. So be ready to adapt when everything else fails. These are the 5 key principles I have used in all my leadership roles, both in Germany, in Norway, across the world, big insurance companies, finance, health, critical infrastructure, and they have worked well. Take these 5 principles with you, and you can apply them no matter which organization you are. This is how you build a stronger, sustainable ecosystem against the disruptive ecosystem that cybercriminals are building. Thank you very much.
Orange Business.